Hi there, this is Dave Hamill working as a risk consultant in Primavera GBU. This is just a very quick recording to talk about differences between qualitative and quantitative risk analysis, especially when it comes to schedule. So first of all, when we talk about qualitative analysis, we're basically talking about the things that are typically captured in a risk register, such as we have here. Quantitative is when we move on to do things like Monte Carlo simulation and record percentiles out of it. So, for example here, very simple example to try and illustrate the point. We've got two risks. Risk 1 is classified as a major risk. It's got a very high probability of happening, and it's got a very high impact on schedule, should it happen, somewhere between 64 and 80 days. This results in a score from the risk register probability impact diagram of 72 and coloured red. Risk 2, we've just got it called here as a minor risk. Very low probability, very low schedule impact, up to 16 at most, results in a low score and is green on here. So the simple question is, which risk will impact finish date most? So I guess the obvious answer when looking at this is risk number 1, right? Let's take a quick look at this within the product in Primavera Prime here. So I got the same risk register as we were looking at a moment ago. Got my schedule view on here. So this is the thing that's key to also take into account. So the thing that is worth noting is I got two different paths. I've got this critical path, which has got 3 activities on it, just called critical 1, critical 2, critical 3. And I've got this other non-critical activity. To keep things simple, I just got the duration of every activity here is 50 days. So obviously these 3 together are 150 days. You've got effectively 100 days of float for this activity here. So if we look at that non-critical activity, it has got risk number 1, the major risk, assigned to it. So we're basically saying that if risk 1 occurs, and remember it might be adding up to 80 days, it's this activity that it's going to push out. But given, as we've just seen, there's 100 days of float in here, it shouldn't really be impacting anything on the critical path in here, right? Come and take a look at, I think it's on the first activity here, critical 1, I've got risk 2 mapped to it. So although it's this minor risk with a very low probability and very low impact, it is going to be directly impacting the critical path. So if the risk occurs, albeit not very frequently and fairly small in size, it will push out the finish date. And if we take a look at having run the analysis, what that means on the tornado chart, then perhaps not surprisingly, we see that this is then the other way around, right? So risk 2 is having all of the impact, 7.66 days worth of contribution to the P80 date that we see, and risk 2 is the minor risk. So we could also, if we wanted to, just to show use of maybe the fields here in Prime, so just set up a field, a UDF, a configured field in Prime where we can capture those numbers. So this, if you like, is my from a qualitative perspective. Here is my score from a quantitative perspective. I'm talking just purely schedule here. But if I wanted to sort my risk register in order of descending risk contribution, then we would see that in this particular case, although it's got the very low scores, it is in fact the biggest contributor to the finish date. And hopefully this gives you a simple feel for how quantitative risk analysis is different to qualitative, and in particular the fact of whether or not you have risks that are impacting the critical path or not will determine how important they are, not just their scoring in terms of probability and impact, etc. Okay, thanks.